Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar, Women Investors Day Investing in Success, organized by La Caixa Foundation. Today, we want to focus on the fundraising process for biomedical projects and startups, a key step for the survival of projects and their arrival on the market. We want to discuss the challenges for a woman entrepreneur due to the fact that she is an entrepreneur and a woman in an area where the male presence is in the majority. Although women represent between 70 and 80% of the workforce in the health sector, the average of women in leadership positions drops to 10 or 35%, depending on the specific area. Gender diversity in teams leads to greater success for companies and is one of the goals of sustainable development in the European Union and globally. According to the venture capital fund, First Round Capital, projects with a woman in the founding team are 63% more profitable. So, increasing female visibility and leadership is not only a social issue, but also an economic one, and is also relevant to patients. So let me introduce our experts for the panel today. With us is Valerie Van Horen, co-founded Ona Therapeutics, where she serves as a CEO. She can talk to us firsthand about the fundraising experience and setting up startups. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you, Joanna. Pleasure to be here. So to briefly introduce myself, I'm a scientist by nature. So I used to be in the lab and really did hardcore science before I moved to more the biotech industry, where I worked in drug development and discovery before I started my own company last year. So pleasure to be here.
Thank you and welcome. We have with us also Joanna Branco. Joanna is the Executive Director for Biochem, Technology Transfer Association. She can talk to us from her experience in management about the evolution of projects. Hello, Joanna, and welcome.
Hello, Georgina. Thank you so much for the invitation. It is a great pleasure to be here. With Valerie, I'm a scientist by training, then turned into an entrepreneur, and only later I joined the innovation team here at Biochem. So it is a great pleasure to be involved in this discussion. I just want to add that besides being a female entrepreneur, I'm also a proud mother of 2 girls.
Thank you, Joanna, and welcome. We have also with us Andrea Saez. She is Chief Scientific Officer at Origo Biopharma. Most recently, she was Senior Associate in venture capital firm investing in healthcare innovation. She can tell us what investors are looking for when they get into a project. Hello, Andrea, and welcome.
Thank you, Georgina. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here as well and to participate in this debate. Just to introduce myself very briefly, also have a scientific background, and today I'm CSO at Origo, where I manage the scientific and development activities of the company in drug development. And I had the privilege also of working for a fantastic venture capital firm in Barcelona, Savis Partners, which gives me a privileged view of the sector. So hoping to share with you that experience as well.
Thank you, Andrea. And we have also Raquel Riera. She is Director of Acceleration and Talent in Biochem. From a more institutional perspective, she can tell us about the keys to success in biomedical startups. Hello, Raquel, and welcome.
Hello, Georgina. Pleasure to be here. Just to introduce myself a little bit, I'm Raquel Riera. I'm Director of Acceleration and Talent at Biochem. I have a business background, so I am a strange animal, not only in this webinar, but also in this sector. So I've been working in life sciences for 10 years already, but yeah, I have a different kind of profile.
Okay, thank you so much, Raquel. And we are going to start with the debate, and we will do so with the questions that the attendees have sent us when registering the event. Notice that you can also ask us questions during the course of this discussion. So the first question is for Andrea Saez. Andrea, from your experience, how should we approach investors to attract their interest in our project? What do you think about it?
Well, this question has many angles, and we could speak for a long time. But maybe just to start, I can tell you that, in my opinion, the first contact with an investor is quite important. Is very important. So it's crucial to be well prepared, and this can happen on a face-to-face meeting. But many times it will only be a slide deck that you send with a summary of your investment proposal. And this has to be prepared very well, not only on the scientific aspects, but all the different aspects of the investment proposal have to be taken into account. Whether you do it face-to-face or investors will have the opportunity to revise a summary on a slide deck, you have to really get the investor excited about your project. You have to think that they will be working with you on the project for a long time. At least that's what you are suggesting them to do. So they are moved by innovation, by breakthrough innovation, and you have to, in my opinion, have to highlight all these most innovative aspects of your project so that they get excited about it. You have to show that you are also very excited and involved. And you have also to provide confidence. So they have to trust you. You have to be transparent also on sharing the risks of the project. And well, maybe I would just add that it's also important to keep in mind the objective of the investors, which is at the end of the day, selling the company at some point. So make sure you discuss why you think your company can be sold, what are the trends in the market that ensure this, or at least make it highly possible, and discuss it with them so they can see that they will have a profitable investment in your company, and that they will have a good time with you developing the product, because there's a need, there's a breakthrough innovation in it, and there is great potential.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. The second question is for Valerie Van Horen. Could you please give us practical advice on how to build a strong team in earlier stage companies whose main activity is R&D, or what are the key aspects for building a successful entrepreneurial team? What do you think about that?
I think that's a very good question. And I think a good team is the basis of every startup. I think a startup fails or doesn't fail, succeed because of a good team. Well, mainly there are other factors, but I think team is the core and is super essential. So first of all, finding a good team is not easy. So you really have to find the right people, and you of course get that by doing a lot of job interviews, but also by networking. You go to different institutions, you go to networking events, you speak to people, and like this you get a feeling of the people out there, of the people you want to approach to and engage deeper with. So finding the right people is not easy, but also keeping the right people is not easy. And I think there it's something as a CEO you can really make a difference by making sure that the people are part of the project. So they are not working for you, they are working together with you, and you make them feel like this is also their baby. So my company is my baby, but also the baby of my employees or the people I work together with. So making them feel part of it, giving them decision power, letting them be free, because you want somebody who tells you you're wrong and gives you better advice. You don't want somebody who's telling always you're right, because believe me, you're not always right. So really searching for these type of people and nurturing them, letting them grow and making them be the best self. That's very essential.
Okay, thank you so much. Really interesting, empowering people, face-to-face meetings with the investors. So we have just two practical advice for today. So the third question is for Raquel Riera. In the biotech sector in Catalonia or in Spain, what is the ratio of CEO women from new startups or spin-off in the last 5 years?
Well, the indicators for the last 5 years show that 1 out of 4 companies that are created in the bioregion are founded or are led by a woman. But good news here is that if we only look at the 2 last years, so since 2018, this percentage rises up to 46%. So this shows that more and more women scientists are taking that entrepreneurial path. Also, we need to consider there are slight differences between healthcare subsectors. Let's say, for instance, medtech is the field that is doing better in terms of gender equality. In this field, 32% of the new companies are led by women, compared to pharma, that this percentage is only 13%. But also, beyond data, I also like to look at the daily contacts that we have with entrepreneurs, right? We at Biochem, we started to work with entrepreneurs in 2006. And since then, we have seen an important increase in the presence of women in startups. So we are seeing them all around in different types of organizations, in different types of companies. In fact, at the beginning of this week, we were hosting a pitch competition. 4 companies were pitching. 2 of them were led by women. In fact, Valerie was one of them. And also, we are seeing women in fields and in organizations that were traditionally run by men, such as the investment field. So now in the bioregions, of some of the more relevant investment funds are led or co-led by women. So we have Montse Vendrell in Alta Life Sciences, we have Clara Campas in Asavis, also Marta Sankey, that is leading a new fund focused on digital health. So we are finding everyday examples that show that the presence and the importance of women in life sciences is increasing a lot. So of course there's still a lot to do, but I think we have reasons to be optimistic here.
Thank you so much, Raquel. So there is a positive message here. So the fourth question is for Joanna Branco. From your experience in management, what role do you think plays the small number of lobbies and networking among women? So do you think that are men better at creating lobbies, or is just an historical question?
Thank you, Georgina. In my personal opinion, I truly believe that it's more of a historical question. Over the past year, we've been experiencing a number of supporting and networking groups and events towards empowering women and supporting them towards engaging their entrepreneurial skills. And so I truly believe that if we have to choose, I think over the past years we've been seeing more and more supporting groups and support also for the government entities to have a higher presence of women in leading positions. So historically, as you know, this is not the case, but I think we're on the right track and things have been changing quite a lot over the past years. And so things may change dramatically over the following years, which I think that will lead us to a point that we really need to strengthen that the merit, the true value has to rely to be the strongest base, and that women and men will be on the same position.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Joanna. So one of the attendees asked us, do you believe in quotas? Valerie, what do you think about quotas?
Sorry, my microphone was muted. I think it's an important thing. On one hand, you would say I don't agree with it because it's somehow positive discrimination, and that can be seen as giving the job not to the best person. And it's something I experienced in my own life. For example, I was invited at a conference to give a presentation, and people would say it's only because you're a woman, because they need to have the quotas. That's why you're presenting. So on one hand, that is very frustrating. And in my early career, I was against it. But nowadays, I think it's essential. We have a lot of years to catch up with. Men didn't have the positive, they always had the positive discrimination. It was not even called discrimination. It was only men who were having the positions and so on. So I think if we want to catch up, quotas will be necessary and are necessary. So some positive discrimination, I think, is somehow necessary. Otherwise, we'll never become equal, I think.
If I may, I agree with you, Valerie. I mean, I don't like the idea of that because it's a discrimination in the end, but I think they're necessary because society has showed us that other way naturally it doesn't come. It doesn't come naturally, so we have to do something about it. And since we are there is men and women on the baseline, why shouldn't we be able to choose 50% valid women? I mean, they are there, so we should be able to put them on boards and leadership positions, and the same as men. So yeah, I agree.
Raquel, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Actually, it's not something that we need to be proud of. It's something that it's needed. It's what we need to do to raise this gender equality. So hopefully we won't need that in some years. But right now is the only way, because as Andrea was saying, it's not happening naturally.
Yeah,
So you need to push it somehow.
Yeah, and also as an advice, if somebody like really points that out, like you're here because of positive discrimination, don't feel bad about it, because that's not true. At the end of the day, I'm sure maybe we need quotas to get somebody there, but if you have a position and you do it well, it's not because of the positive discrimination. You got there because of the quota, maybe, but you will stay there because you're good in your job. Otherwise, you will be replaced quite fast. So please don't feel, that's a practical advice, don't feel bad about it. Just embrace it and work your ass out that you deserve this place, and that's it.
And Joanna, what do you think? When you hire people in a company, are you thinking on quotas or not?
So honestly, and that comes from my experience when I was a co-founder and CSO of a biotech company. I got to a point that I had the opposite issue. As you well know, the largest majority of scientists are females, not males. And this, for the same way, I think there's a need for a balance. You need men and women on the team equally, so that you can build a stronger team. So I think that the equality is the issue. And I agree with all of my colleagues here that until we get there naturally, we will need the quotas in place, and then everything and the merit and the value that we have is gonna be the first issue when picking someone for a specific job.
What do you think what are the most important measures that need to be taken in order to overcome the imbalances that we can have in the government sector and in other sectors? What do you think, for instance, not only the public sector and the private sector also, no? Which are these important measures?
So one of the big issues for most of the women is to struggle, and historically, again, to struggle for the balance between the work and personal life. And I think all the support that can be done towards acknowledging the need for the coordination with the personal life is a key aspect to make sure that you're the best professional you can be at work is a key issue. So acknowledging that the personal life has a big and a very important role towards how you perform. But I think that more and more initiatives are awarding women that take the leading roles, either if it's in a entrepreneurial project or inside a company. So again, more and more initiatives are promoting women in that sense. And so I believe that we are going on the right track.
Mm-hmm. I also think that it's a matter of a change of mentality many times, because regarding balancing life and work, I think we have to change that mentality that we have to all work from 9 to 7 every day. Flexibility is very important, and I think we can do a great job in different ways, and everyone can organize themselves and still provide a lot of value. So sometimes there is this mentality that is very old. So I would say that we need flexibility measures, and that everyone understands that we can do the same amount of work or even better in different ways. And I will also say that visibility to women in leadership positions is very important, so that younger girls have role models, because as a child we didn't see many women in leadership positions. So it's difficult to break that barrier, because you create an image of the world as you see it as a child, and sometimes it's difficult to break. So I think every woman having the possibility to be in a leadership position should take it, because we are giving example and we are promoting students and other women to get there, and to just tell them that it can be done, of course.
I think that's an excellent point, and I truly believe that having role models and having more and more women around you that can tell their story, can give support and share experience is really, really important for young researchers, but also to younger children, to from the beginning to engage and to really see that there's no difference, and to engage with all the value that they have. So I fully agree with you.
Yeah, because it's unconscious many times, so you don't realize you get this image of the world, but when you grow up and then you think about it, it's there on the back of your head. So yeah, I think that's important.
Do you think that there are more female entrepreneurs in science because continuing to building a career in the academia is still very difficult? For instance, in the academia, they ask for papers and do you have to publish a lot? And I don't know if you are a female, it's more difficult. What do you think?
Well, I have like in academics, so publishing, I think publishing papers is for everybody as difficult. If you're a man or a woman, it's just hard. And in academics, they push you for that. And of course, you can say because women get pregnant most of the time during their PhDs, that's sometimes bad timing for publishing papers. But if you have a PI who's a little bit sensible, you can work around that. So nowadays, the last years, I work together with some PIs, and they are quite good at that. They realize that women are really amazing in the lab. So they really find ways, as Andrea said, there are ways to work around that. It doesn't mean because you get pregnant that you cannot work, or that you have children that you cannot work. Maybe you have other timetable and so on. So I think it's the key to be flexible. But I do feel like, especially in academics, that there's a discrimination because there's still an old hierarchy going on. I think it's still mostly led by older professors. And if you look at the amount of professors or PIs, I think they're in a lot worse status than in the biotech industry. I think in the biotech industry, it's a lot more open, and I'm very positive there. And I think I haven't felt a lot of discrimination there. While in academics, I think the system should be changed a bit more and challenged. And they put quotas, but they don't live around them. And also the flexibility of working should adapt. So I think in academics, it's a difficult thing. But again, publishing is difficult for everybody, if you're a man or a woman.
Yeah, I also personally don't have any major bad experience on that sense. And I mostly think that being an entrepreneur is more of a state of mind than something that you learn. It's whether you have it or you don't. And for the same for the leading roles. I mean, you can train yourself for a number of things, but it has to do with your attitude. And having it as becoming an entrepreneur has a side way to pursue with your career is the same for both men and women on that sense. Yes.
I was going to say the same actually. So being an entrepreneur is a tough job for women and for men. Good thing here is that, and if we look at from a different perspective, is that since the ecosystem wants to empower women, there are a lot of tools, a lot of programs, a lot of activities that are very focused on women entrepreneurs. So you can enroll programs, you can learn, you have many courses that are strictly oriented to women. So let's take this advantage. Let's do that. But again, the path is hard for everybody.
Yeah, but I think honestly, and I think it's good that there are a lot of workshops and grants is focused on women. I think that's good. But I think in many cases, especially in bigger institutions, it's still a fact that practically it's not arranged. Practically, if you, for example, go on maternity leave or you have to pick up your kids or things like that, I think practically things should change, that it should be easy to adapt to that. I think practically these things, there are a lot of commissions and there are a lot of people talking about it, but practically it can be so simple. Like, put a daycare center in a big institution. I know it's difficult, but difficult also can work. And in a lot of Swedish countries, that's the case. So we should do practical solutions, like let women put their child close by, then it's easier. And also what I find very funny is it's always the woman who takes care of the child. I don't think that's true anymore, luckily. So my husband also has a difficult time balancing his work life because we care for our child equally. And what I actually find very funny, when I go to a conference, a lot of people ask me, oh, where is your child? And they never ask that to a man. If a man goes to a conference, nobody asks him, where is your child? They just assume that the wife is looking for it. Well, when I go, they ask, oh, where is your child? And I always respond like, oh, I don't know, which is not true, but just to loosen it up a bit. So I think we need some really practical tools than a lot of workshops and things like that, although they're also useful.
Also, this is very related to the mentality, right? So Andrea was pointing this a little bit at the very beginning. So questions that you receive, men are never answering these questions. And actually here, the maternity leave in Spain, it will be the same next year for women and for men. And when I discuss this with people, I still hear people saying, yeah, but men are not going to do it. They are not going to take the maternity leave. And so if we keep taking these things around, we are somehow creating a culture of thought that men don't need to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's essential, because many times what happens is that if you say you're going to take a maternity leave of 1 year, 6 months, whatever, especially as Valerie was saying, in academia, many times, yeah, you were regarded as you were not committed to the project. And that's not true. You can do many things, or we women can do many things at the same time and be committed to different things at the same time. So I think we have to change that. And it's especially hard for scientists in academia, I think, because as one friend was telling me once, if a dentist stops working for a year, when he comes back, he's still a dentist. But for a scientist, with a lot of pressure publishing papers and keeping up to date, if you stop for a year, it's not so sure then you can go back. Because all the grants, and I think this is changing right now, but in the past it was not so clear. It was hard. You were not committed. You had other things in mind. In many grants, you had to justify why for 1 year you did nothing. Where have you been? So it's especially hard in academia, I think.
Mm-hmm. Our audiences are asking also about your CVs. They ask, do you think that a PhD can benefit you in terms of achieving greater success? And then they are asking also if always do you have had a leading role in your life or in your careers?
So,
Valerie.
Okay, having a PhD, well, I think, first of all, I don't think it is essential to have a PhD to be an entrepreneur. Very clear. I don't think it's essential. I do have a PhD, and it's a bit the same thing of an MBA. Is it essential to have an MBA? I don't think so. I think the only thing essential of becoming an entrepreneur and starting a company is being passionate, and second of all, never give up. Passion and never give up. I think that's only two things you need. And a PhD, for example, helped me in two ways. First thing, doing a PhD is like hard, like many things in life, but it's hard. So you learn to find solutions, you learn to think risk mitigation. It's like your own mini company, your own project you're doing. So it gives you some training and so on. And then second of all, since my company is in biotech industry, a CEO in a small biotech has to know also the science. If you're a CEO of a big pharma, then you have like 100 people knowing the science, but I have to go and pitch and answer questions of investors. So if I would not be a PhD, I'm not saying it's not possible, because there are a lot of CEOs who are not a PhD and do what I do, but it's good to have some scientific knowledge that I can answer the questions, that I can think, also to set a strategy of my company. So for two ways, I think a PhD is useful to learn, how to, life lessons, I think, and also to really help me understand my company and so on. So I do think it's useful, yes.
Yes, because when you leave a university, you know very little actually, and I mean, you have studied everything theoretical, but something different is to actually do the experiments. So when you develop a drug, for instance, in our field, you're actually doing experiments, reading the outcomes every day. So you have to be able to interpret, to make decisions, and that's something that you learn through your PhD. So as Valerie was saying, maybe more in small biotechs and so on, but you really have to know what you're talking about.
So what I really believe that. So I was going to say that that I don't think a PhD is necessary. Again, as with Valerie, but I do think that the PhD brings you additional resilience and additional tools to know how to solve many issues in a company. I usually say that doing a PhD does not make you a specialist in any kind of a specific topic, because if you don't pursue on that topic, in 6 months' time, there's a new scientific results being published, but it becomes you become an expert in problem solving. So you know how to search for tools to help you and to solve. And also the pressure and also all the work that you need to done are going to help you when starting up a company, because I do believe that there's a lot of support for people to set up your company. There's a lot of programs to promote entrepreneurship, but building a company, and especially on the biotech field, is really, really a hard work. So having this and dealing with investors, especially if you have a scientific background, is a difficult process. And so I do believe that having a PhD is not essential, but it gives you some tools. As Valerie mentioned, having an MBA is not necessary as well. I don't have one, for example, but I do acknowledge that having some at least basic knowledge on management and accounting is going to help you to perform. And again, we're talking about very small companies where usually a CEO is sometimes on the bench helping to set up some experiments, and on the next day dealing with investors trying to track additional rounds of funding for the company. So a balance here is going to be helpful. For the second question, if we always had a leading role in our careers, well, I started up as a scientist and did my PhD in the US, and being on a leading role was not on my top list. But I think that all the experience over the years had led me to this position. Being an entrepreneur, I know for sure that was on my mindset from the very beginning, not becoming on the leading position. But I think that I was able to look at all the opportunities around me and to learn from them. And I'm now very happy with the position and the work that I do daily. So, yeah.
Raquel, what do you think?
I'm going back to the first question, actually. I think the matter of the PhD, MBA, etc., it depends on what you want to do afterwards. So if you really want to do an academic career, for sure you will need a PhD. Obviously, if you will be running a company in the biotech sector, you will need it. Or it would be very useful to have it. But it's very important to balance which is the effort that you will need to do, and which is the value that you can take out of it. Also, I think it's not about the knowledge that much. It's about the skills, as all the panelists were saying. Doing a PhD or an MBA, it's not that much about the knowledge, that of course it is, but somehow is that you are showing that you are able to work hard, you are able to be resilient, you are able to fight to achieve things. So it's a way of expressing that you have all these skills, but these skills are not necessarily only acquired through a PhD or an MBA.
Mm-hmm. You were talking before about having more models in the society, more female models, more reference. How to increase the presence of women in technology and health conference as a key opinion leaders? What do you think about that?
How to increase it? Just invite people more in round tables. I get like annoyed if there's like a round table and it's only men. How is it possible that you can only find men in round tables? So I think it's mainly the organizers who should think about that. And again, I also don't really think it's a matter of men and women. I think a lot of round tables all over the world are always the same people. So I think it's good because I want to hear a round panel of other people. But I think that it's just simple. Just invite more women and promote women, as you said here, promote women to not be shy and to stand up. And I also think it's something that us women should do. We should not be in the victim position and say, oh no, nobody ever invites me, or nobody ever listens to me, or nobody ever gives me that position. Go and get that position, claim it, be confident, and know that you're worth of it, and just go ask for it and go get it. Same thing with salary negotiations. I read a lot of reports that women are afraid to ask for a salary raise, or while a man will not even bother about it. And that's our own fault, ladies. That is our problem. Why are we embarrassed? Somehow society trained us like that, but there's no reason. So stop apologizing, stop finding excuses, and go for it. I think that's important.
I think this goes on the same way of showing your true value, and don't be afraid to brag about it. So the only time that I think while an entrepreneur, I felt that somehow I was being discriminated. So before I was co-founding a company with a male, and one of our meetings with investors, I noticed that most of the questions were posed directly facing at my friends, and for some of them, I decided to step up and answering the questions. And I know that that position that I did, showing up and answering, was also showing, look, I'm here. I'm actually the CEO, the CSO of the company. I have something to say about the technology, so I'm here. And that changed the way they were facing me. And so it's a matter of how you deal with it and how you show that you have your value and you're there, and you need to be listened to.
I fully agree. Sorry to speak, but I fully agree, Joanna. The same thing happened to me. I also co-founded a company with a man, and somehow, if you're in a room full of men, it's something. I'm not saying they do it on purpose, but it's somehow something they have. They always talk to him. But then you have two options as a woman: cry and say, "Oh, they're not listening to me," or just say, "Hello." If you want to close,
I'm here.
You have to talk to me, not to him. I'm the CEO, the CSO, or whatever. So, and they value that. And sometimes women feel uncomfortable with that, but men would do it without even thinking about it. So I really don't want that they think of women as victims. We are equal, and we have to stand up and go for it.
Yeah, I agree. And many times it can happen that you enter a room, a committee, decision committee, and it's full of men, and you don't have to be afraid of that or get intimidated. And I think sometimes we do. So we just need to see everyone as different persons and not think about the gender so much. So we also have to do that on our minds. I think it's an effort also on our side.
Mm-hmm. So we have a real-time question now. There is a question from one of the attendees. They now having an increase in women being positioned in investors' positions and boards of directors. Do you expect a synergistic effect in levering the numbers in the near future? Will be a snowball? So more women in investors' positions or on boards of directors could have any effect in the startups or not? Do you expect do you expect a synergistic effect?
Yeah, I mean, for sure that having more examples of women in leading positions will encourage other women to step up as well. But also, as we talked before, there are more and more programs specifically directed to support companies founded by women, and that could also boost this number. And I think with time, I think if it's difficult to understand that in the 21st century we're still having this conversation, but things have changed, and I think we're all trying to stimulate, to encourage other women around us to pursue the same path. So the more women we have on leading roles, for sure will encourage more women to try out and do the same, for sure.
I also want to point out that it's very important that we support each other, because men do that the same way as well. And somehow, in some occasions and in some environments, women don't do that. Women, I will not say envy each other, but somehow naturally that doesn't come always naturally. So I think it's very important that we support women. So, for example, indeed, I do think if you're in the board and you have the chance to hire a female CEO, you have to take the best CEO, you have to take the man or the woman, but you still have to try to promote them and push them and say, look also to this candidate, or like really promote women and have each other's back, because men also have each other's back. And of course, you also have to promote good men. I'm not only saying that, but also I think we have to do that more and say good things about our fellow females in different positions.
I
Andrea,
completely agree. I think, sorry.
Sorry, Raquel, sorry.
I completely agree. I think we all have a responsibility to change things and to make things better. So, and I completely think that having women in investors funds can change something. So I'm confident that it will change the trend.
Yeah, it's a matter of role models, but I also like to say that maybe this question goes on the line of, and as Valerie said, women choosing other women or promoting other women, which I think is crucial. Completely agree. But luckily, many men also will do that, and many men don't care whether it's a man or a woman. They will pick based on the potential that they see. So everyone is changing, and luckily men have a different mentality now that they used to have years ago. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Although the scientist sector, there are a lot of women in this area. The number says that in the leadership positions we don't have women. So which are the two main issues that prevent women from being at the top of the managerial positions? What do you think? One advice to exercise women leadership in a male-made world. What do you think? It's a difficult question.
I think, as my colleagues were saying, it's a matter of not being afraid to speak up and to claim what you need to do. It be constant, work hard, and if you have to stop for a while, then come back and never stop working and ask for what you need and what you think is right, and then don't be afraid to do that. So being persistent I think is important.
Work hard, yes. Work hard, be confident on your true value, and make sure that you really deserve that spot. So as with everything in life, you need to be confident with yourself, and in order to be confident, you have to prepare yourself, and that's with everything in life. So it's not going to be different. for work purposes. So you have to earn the spot. So be prepared to work it for it.
Yeah, and you have to know what you're good at, because to keep on working and to keep on pushing, and you have to find the place where you really provide the most value. That's where you will be able to show your potential. This is for everyone, not only for women. But I'm just saying, because you have to really find what is your value and potential, and direct it, direct your work and your efforts there.
It's the same. Not all scientists are going to become entrepreneurs. You need very good scientists, and you need very good entrepreneurs. And that doesn't mean that they can interchange their positions. Sometimes great science should continue doing science, because they're not going to be good at managing a company. And we need to, as Andreas was saying, we need to know what we are good at and be humble to recognize that topic, I need someone else to perform it for me, because I want to be focused on something that I'm really good at, and I'm gonna be doing a good job.
Valerie or Raquel?
I was thinking that building a little bit on Joanna's point, we have seen companies that were led sometimes by the scientists and the investors. Once they were pitching, the investors were saying, okay, yeah, so I trust on you, and I trust on you doing science, but the CEO needs to be somebody else. And it's not because the science behind it's not good. It's because this person probably is an excellent researcher, but is not an excellent, let's say, seller or pitcher. So it's really important to see, and it doesn't mean that you are not good building the company, but maybe you are good doing something different inside the company.
Well, it's also the other way around. Like, I think I'm better managing the company than doing the science. So it goes both ways around. But I already said it in the beginning. So indeed, like in science, in the labs, 90% are women, and the PIs are all men. So I think it's indeed a mentality. It's something us women have to work from ourselves. But it's, again, something that a lot of research institutions also should work on. And some are already doing an excellent job, of course. And I'm not only complaining, but I think it's very important that they wake up, and that it's not like the traditional working structure, and if somebody needs daycare, that they help for that, or if people need flexible hours, or if you need a break in your career, that's all possible. Or even, like, I know PIs who have constantly a technician available, for example, postdocs or PhD students who go on maternity leave, that they have somebody dedicated who can cover the work of multiple people. And it makes sense, because at the end of the day, it's more profitable to continue somehow their research when somebody is on maternity leave, and then when this person comes back, there's a technician or somebody who's like mitigating the work. So, like, strategies, thinking about that, they're all possible, and that's something I think institutions should work more on, more than having panels and committees talking about the problems. There should be some actions.
I completely agree, Valerie. And also, we talk about the maternity leave as if we were out of the company like for 10 years. I mean, we are going to work for 40 years. It's okay if you are out for a year, so you can develop your career anyway. So somehow it's funny how we say that everything is because of maternity leave, and in practical terms, it's
nothing.
Only a year. So,
well,
there also,
but the thing, unless that's also a thing. Also, women should not be forced to be home a year. For example, I was only home for 3 months, because in Belgium the maternity leave is only 3 months, and I could have found other ways to stay longer at home, but I decided to somehow not full-time already work, and that's also something that is fine. It should be flexible, so you should not be forced by men or by women or by anybody to stay home for a year. You can also do maternity leave of 3 months and then go back part-time or go back full-time, whatever you want. But because, as you said, Raquel, it's not the end of the world. And if you're flexible, you can find ways to cover that. But I also think it's really important that we don't say to people that they have to stay a year home on maternity leave, because for some people, that's not always the best solution. Neither for the kid, eh?
Of course not, of course not. But if you take less, no one will complain at work.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking about the other extreme, I guess.
Yeah, but you do get judged if you go back after 3 months, not from work, but from society.
So let's talk about difference between male leadership and female leadership, because there is a question that why we are always concerned about women leadership, meaning power in masculine terms, instead of thinking about horizontal, participative, and democratic organizations more inclusive without leaders as men do. Do you think that there is a difference between leading a company if you are a woman or a man? I think so. I think that there is a big difference, for sure.
Why?
What do you think? Yeah.
Why do you think?
Because it's different if you have a boss that is a woman, she can understand that you can spend 4 months in your maternity with your children, you know, she can understand that. And I think that I think that more women are more concerned about the problems that as a woman we have, you know. And I think that sometimes, or some decisions, it's quite to understand. It's difficult to understand if the boss is a man. I think so. I don't know if you have had the same experience or not. It's my experience in my life. It's really different if you have a boss or if you a man as a boss or a woman, and if this woman has or not has children. If she has children, it's different. I don't know.
I think it really depends. So in my experience, it was the other way around. So the women that were leading were were pushing that hard that they couldn't understand that we had a different need or we were having children or whatever. So it really depends.
Yeah, I also think it definitely depends. And as Valerie mentioned in the beginning, we need to start supporting more each other. And sometimes you may get to a point, as Raquel was mentioning. So I don't think it's with everybody. You'll see different positions, whether it's a man or it's a woman. It really depends. I think that's a tricky question because sometimes, and I shouldn't be saying it, but sometimes women can really be mean to other women as well. And that's something that we shouldn't hide out.
Exactly. And I also do think, like, in the defense of men, I had some male bosses who were not understanding at all, but I also not only have bosses, but fellow male CEOs and who are amazing, who really understand their female personnel, their employees very well, who really understand that they need flexibility. And I don't think it's like a fact that men don't get it. I think it's more a personal thing. I think you have women who get it and women who don't get it. And you have men who are good leaders and understand the needs of their people, not only the needs of women, because men can also have certain needs depending on their personal life or whatever, or health status or whatever. So I also don't really think that women per se is a better leader. I think it's a personal thing.
But again, there's a specific context on this because we're talking about these issues, men, women, on the science field. And I think this is totally different from other sectors. Okay. So I think that everything that we are saying, it applies to the science context, whether it's on company context or on the academic context, because I think that most likely we are one of the sectors where there's fewer differences between men and women. There's still a lot, as we've been talking about, but if we were to talk on more traditional industries, I think this difference is much, much higher. And so what Georgina was asking may be more relevant to other types of sectors, not for the scientific area as we were talking, and we cannot forget that for other sectors, what we're discussing here may be gain a totally different relevance. And so having this position and having more women on leading roles on the science can be an example for more scientists, but can also have a higher impact on society as a general term. So that's why strengthening the position on the scientific sector can have a broader effect, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. There is another question, and it's about fundraising, more or less. It's which kind of discriminative practices have you dealt with during your career, if you have, of course?
When fundraising?
Yes, if you have had discriminative practices in the fundraising or not. I don't know. There is a question about that.
Maybe Valerie can speak about that, but I can tell you as an investors, we really don't look at whether the CEO is a man or a woman. We look for other qualities that can be either in men or women, and the CEO position is very important. So we really look deep into the person and the qualities that they have. And in my experience, at least, that was never, ever an issue, luckily. But maybe Valerie experienced that from other.
Well, I must say, honestly, I hope I'm not the exception, but I also have never in the fundraising field ever felt differently treated because I was a man or a woman. Not at all. I think it's quite equal, and fundraising is hard, and they smash you down very fastly. So it doesn't depend if you're a woman or a man. It depends if you're well prepared and know what you're saying. So honestly, luckily, I have never experienced that. Maybe, as I said before, in the academic world, I have experienced that many times, that I didn't got the position because I was a woman and I could get pregnant or things like that. So in the academic world, I really had that, not so much, but also when dealing with when dealing with the academic world, that's a different thing. And I think it's increasing now. It's getting better. I'm already left academics a few years ago, so I hope it's getting better. But during fundraising, honestly, I haven't felt any discrimination. The investors are just looking for a good project and a good team. So no.
Joanna?
I mentioned before that only one time I felt that I was put it on the side because I wasn't the CEO, I was the CSO, but actually it was a science-related question. So I was the one that should be putting up front to answer the question. But again, it has to do, probably it wasn't on purpose. I truly want to believe that it wasn't on purpose, and we talked about it. But again, it has to do with the way you reacted it, and you want to say, look, I'm here, I'm answering it. That's my expertise. I know how to answer that. So that's so far, luckily. And again, that's why I was saying for the scientific field, I think that's probably one of the areas where there are fewer differences between male and female. And so luckily that was my only experience, and it was, I think I handled it in the better way possible. So show your true value and show you deserve to be on the spot.
There is another question, and it's about leadership. Have you ever had the feeling that when a woman PI gives a speech, it's more criticized than when it is a man who is giving the speech? Should we strive for more presence of women in boards of directors? What do you think?
Well, the second part of the question, yes, a board of directors should be 50% women, men. And I don't want to bluff, but I'm very proud that the board of my company has 50 men and the chair is a woman. So I find that very important. And I love the fact that, especially in the States, investors are demanding that the half of the board is female. Yes, I think that is very important. If a talk, men or women get more criticized, I honestly don't think so. I have seen men being criticized a lot and women as much. I think maybe it could maybe happen more that sometimes women are a little bit more shy. And if you're more shy, somehow you're more open, you're it's easier to get attacked. If you stand there very shy, maybe they will attack you faster. But in general, I haven't had the feeling that happens. What do you ladies think?
No, I agree. I think at least in science, everything is at least, I think the question was referring to PI. So it was really like scientific meetings it was asking about. I think in science, everything is very data driven. So at the end, you're presenting data, defending data, and the analysis goes very much to that. But scientists, I think, like to get engaged into not criticizing, but questioning each other's results. And as Valerie said, I've seen this done to both men and women. So I didn't have that experience. Maybe someone have had in the past, but it's not mine.
No, me neither. So I think I agree with you. I've never felt that, and I've never seen any type of conference where being a male or female on the spot would make a difference in terms of criticizing. No.
I don't have the experience in research, but I'm thinking now in a situation that we were experiencing. We were in a pitch session of a company that was working in urinary incontinence, and actually it was a man that was pitching, and the other two members of the team were two women. And actually the investors tell the team that in order to sound convinced, it needed to be the women that were pitching that instead of men around, right? So the men was a little bit discriminated because not having urinary incontinence, let's say. So it was, funny. It was not because they didn't trust on him. It was because they were trying to say that if women does the pitch, it's like more convincible, let's say.
There is another question about the problem for a mother woman is to balance personal life and make a successful career in parallel. What are your top 3 tips for women, and where should we invest to keep it balanced and be credible in the market? 3 tips. They are asking for 3 tips.
So, I mean, I think on balancing your work and personal life, again, things are quite different than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. And nowadays, the house duties are not only the women's job. So things are better divided. And I think the key is having your things organized and having a good network, your support network. And I think I've never stopped, nothing ever stopped me from going, either if it's a business meeting or a conference in the US and I have to stay away for a week. I don't think it ever stopped me from going and being a dedicated mom. And so I think having a strong support network would be my biggest advice, whether it is your husband, your parents, your friends. A support network can really help you a lot. So that would be my best advice on that sense.
Yeah, I think also first of all, plan. I think planning is very important. It's a bit boring, but really planning your work life and your personal life, I think it's very important, because then you can switch and fix everything together. I think it's very important. A support network, I think it is very important. And also, I think not trying to do everything perfect. I think, again, women put a lot of pressure on each other to, for the birthday party of your kid, the decorations have to be handmade and done perfectly, or you have to bake the perfect cake, or things like that. I honestly prefer to go buy a cake, or not have the perfect decorations, but spend that time playing football with my son. But that's of course a personal thing. But I think we should not put so much pressure on ourselves to have everything perfect. It's okay that your son wants a stain on his shirt. He will survive. It will not make him a less happy child. So I think putting the bar in that sense a bit lower for yourself, I think, especially in your personal life, I think it helps, and focusing on the fun part. Because a lot of people always say, yeah, you have to have quality time, not quantity time. I find that not really true. I find that putting pressure on the moments then you're with your child, it has to be perfect. I don't agree with that. But I do agree when that you make time for your kids, and but real time to have fun, or not only fun, also help him with chores or things like that. But not everything has to be perfect. We don't all have to be Martha Stewarts and sew and bake cookies and do all the things. I think that's important.
And also, I wouldn't say that don't assume as a woman that you are in charge of everything. Exactly. So as we said, things are changing, and we are not our parent generation anymore. And fortunately, our children won't be our generation. So they will have a different mindset. So we already have a different mindset, but we really need to work on that. So it's a negotiation with your partner and how you share the responsibilities, and that's it.
And that's a way how you're teaching your children also on the role models that you're a woman, but still you're a great professional. And if you have to leave for a conference, you're not going to be a worse mother for doing that. You're working hard, and you're being acknowledged for your work, and you're teaching them that. And that's also very, very, very important.
Mm. I also have maybe another tip would be to have to not be afraid to ask for flexibility at work. So if you don't ask for it, it's very difficult that we ever get there. So don't be afraid to state your needs and to say, look, I need this flexibility, this timetable. I would like to have that. I've done it every time that I've joined a new job, and I have gotten that every time. I have asked for it, and it has really helped me, and I had no problem with it, really. But you really need to ask for it, so don't be afraid. I think minds are changing, and it will be all right.
But I think
I also think.
Go ahead,
please.
Well, what I was thinking, what Andrea was saying, I fully agree. I think flexibility is the key, but I think it's then also our jobs of we leading a team to give them the flexibility, because you can ask for it, but like I want to give it to my employees, and also I think you should trust them, because I think the COVID crisis has been the only good thing I think comes from COVID, that people are trusting people now to work at home and that you can do online things. So you have to see something positive in every drama. So I think that's the positive thing that comes out of COVID. But I also do think, for example, I had a boss when I worked from home, he was nervous. He didn't believe I was working. I think honestly, if you're a boss and if you cannot trust your employee to work from home, then you should fire your employee, because then that's not the right fit for you. Because you have to somehow be able to give trust to your people, and also instruct your team and lead your team in a way that you don't expect them to work certain hours. You expect them to be in certain meetings, and you expect them to perform tasks by then. For me, I always say, if you do it in the middle of the night or early in the morning, I just need to have it by then. And if you don't have it by then, we have an issue. Whenever you do it in your bathtub, in your shower, I just need to have it by then. So I think it's also our jobs to be flexible for the people in our team, and to trust them and to empower them to be able to do that.
I completely agree that COVID times pushed even the more traditional companies to give this flexibility to the workers. So maybe we are in front of the trigger of the real flexibility from now on. We will see how everything evolves, but.
There is another real-time question. What are your ambitions for the future? Will you continue your career in business or not? Joanna, we will start with you.
Well, if you 20 years ago, when I was about to start my PhD, if you would ask me if I would be on a management position, I would tell you no way. That's not me. I want to stay in the bench for my whole life. So I think it's a very difficult question to answer. What I know and what I can tell you for sure is that I will continue as long as I'm learning. And I think I'm bringing something to the table, something valuable. And that's what drives me, to do my best and to bring value and to learn something at the end of the day. And so if that was going to be on the management side, I'm happy right now. I'm very happy with what I'm doing. And that's going to be my main driver, to continue to contribute, to make a difference. And that will be my main goal. If I can put on the side a project linking health and social innovation, I will do so. But that's not going to be my main focus. I'm still very happy at what I'm doing.
Valerie?
Oh, well, I feel I'm the luckiest woman in the world. I have the best job in the world, I think. So if I can, I would like to do this job forever, but never say safe ever. You never know how it evolves, but I really like my job, and I think my dream job would be to continue pushing my company forward and seeing it grow and seeing the team grow and seeing the people grow. So I'm the opposite as Joanna. I was not made to be on the bench forever. I think I'm more made to be on the business side forever. So yes, if possible, and if I have the opportunity, I would like to stay in a position like this. Yes.
But Valerie, I wouldn't go back to the bench. So
no, not going back. No, of course. I think very little people do that. No, I understand.
So I think I wasn't expecting it, but I learned so much on the way. And I think one key issue is to be open to opportunities and to grow and to evolve. I could have never been beyond the position I am at now if it wasn't for my background and for the experience I had from the scientific level and also from the company level. I wouldn't be where I am. But it was expected for me if you were talking 20 years ago. But right now, I wouldn't go back to what I was doing 20 years ago. So I'm very happy.
Andrea, what about you?
Well, I actually recently joined my company, and I'm really excited about the projects that we have and the work that I'm doing. So I'm very committed to it. So if you ask me about the future, I hope that I can make these projects move forward. And it's my dream now that they get to the patients and are successful. So that's the only thing I'm thinking now. I'm not thinking in terms of leadership, of management. I think that comes sometimes naturally. And if I can stay in the position that I am, fantastic. If we are successful, the company is sold, and then I move on to other responsibilities, we will see. I just think I'm lucky to work in something that I really love, and I want to enjoy my current position. I have a very technical position as well, and that's good for me because I love science and I love technical aspects. So I really want to enjoy this kind of job that I have now.
And Raquel?
I was thinking, when I think about the future, I don't want to think like in 10 years time or 20 years time. You know, I like to think in the midterm, because, you know, things can change in seconds. So you never know I was in this sector in life sciences by chance, actually. So I was in the doing business, and so I have a business profile. But now that I've been working in life sciences for a while already. I love it. I love to help entrepreneurs to move their projects forward, to be involved in the development of products, of solutions that eventually can have an impact in patients' life. So for sure, my future will be in this sector. I don't know where, I don't know doing what, but for sure in something in life sciences. Yeah.
We have talked a lot about numbers and the situation. We see that it's better, much better now than 10 years ago, for instance. But which kind of real measures can be implemented to improve the situation? It seems that whatever we are doing is not enough, or do you think that it's enough? You have talked about it, but which kind of measures we have to implement to improve?
Well, I think we've talked about a few, namely the flexibility, the support from your employer, and I think those are the main issues. Having here, at least for example, in Portugal, we have a number of initiatives going on where only women can apply. And for example, if you're applying for a specific project, I just finished up one on bioentrepreneurship, and one of the indicators that we had to fulfill is the number of women engaged in the process. So on the general terms, and in terms of boosting the number of women engaged, a lot of things are already in place, and having this type of webinars is one very good example on how we're trying to change mentalities and having more women engage and making the step forward to do that. So if we're talking about real examples already, if you're on the job already, the flexibility that we mentioned here is a key aspect. And again, trying to balance your work.
Valerie?
Well, yeah, I agreed. I think that that's the main thing we can do. Flexibility, stand up for yourself, support each other, support, don't be mean to each other, support your female colleagues. I think that's also very important. Flexibility from all sides, giving flexibility, but also asking for it, being confident, working hard, and just doing it, I think. So I think that's what we have been discussing.
Do you think that there is enough support here in Spain, comparing like Belgium or other parts of Europe, from the public sector, from the government? No, there is not. There is no support.
Well, there is no support. I'm not saying there is no support, but it's like, honestly, it's true, you can have longer maternity leave here, but that's the only thing. And I don't know how it's evolving. I'm not following it, but many things are really not okay. In Belgium, you have a lot of, for example, daycare, they promote it in the workplace. Here, it's like impossible to have daycare in the workplace. All this, then we have to change the restos laborales, and oh no, it's going to be tough. No. So I think I think we have a long way to go. And in Belgium, we could also learn really from the Nordic countries. I think in Sweden and all, it's even better. So I love Spain, and it is a beautiful country, and it has a lot of pros also compared to Belgium and the North. So I'm not saying, in case of really giving women flexibility and helping them balancing work, social life, and also, I think we should learn a lot and not talk about it, but do something. I think in Spain, there's a lot of people talking about it, but not doing so much about it.
I agree. And I think it's not like we need to reinvent the wheel, right? So a lot of things are done already in other countries. So you only need to take them and implement them here. I mean, I know how easier it is, but
very simple. Men are obliged to take the same amount of I think sometimes I don't like obliging anybody to do anything, but like in Sweden, or I'm not sure it's Sweden or Norway, men are obliged to take the same amount of days maternity leave than the woman. So there's no discrimination, and men don't get seen badly if they take those days. It's like, it's a mentality. It's like normal, and we should aim for that.
And not only referring about a female or male entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur, it's easier in other parts of Europe or of the world comparing to Spain or Catalonia. What do you think? Because you talk about maternity, flexibility, or something like that, but not now referring to being or not being a woman, being an entrepreneur. It's easier to start with a startup in Spain or not. Which difficulties have you had?
Well, I think if you compare to the US, where there are more resources, where the mentality and there are more opportunities for sure. And I think that's a bigger difference, but I don't think that's the issue that is going to make you stop doing it. So it's a harder way. But I think things have changed a lot over the past 10 years, and acknowledging the potential for companies on the life sciences field is one very big step at moving forward. So things have changed, and I don't think, and I'm putting here Portugal and Spain very close by, even though the sector is much more developed in Spain than it is in Portugal. But I think we don't have yet the opportunities of other countries with a bigger history in terms of biotechnology. But I think especially Spain is very well positioned nowadays.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, I've only been entrepreneur in Spain, not in Belgium yet. But if you look at colleagues, I think Spain is actually doing very well in that sense. I think being an entrepreneur in Spain, I think especially in life science, we have a good support network. We have good associations. We have Biocat, Catalonia Bio. We have really good investors nowadays. We have actually a luxury on multiple great investors here in Spain. I don't think comparing Spain to the rest of Europe that we should say that it's more difficult here. It's sometimes maybe difficult to convince other international investors to invest in Spain because they're not so used to it. So I think looking for investments from international investors is maybe more tricky because you're a Spanish company. That's something I have felt, but I think this is also changing. So and of course in the States there's more money, so it's always easier. There's more opportunities there. But I think Spain is getting better. So being an entrepreneur in Spain, I think it's good.
Yeah, as Valerie said, we are lucky that we have many different venture capital firms right now, and they're very professionalized and with the capability of attracting really big funds, which is important to then invest in companies. So it's been growing in the last years. I think it's crucial, the work that they do in transferring this financial potential to companies. And I think entrepreneurs with great projects have good opportunities now.
Mm-hmm. So we have only 5 minutes to the end. Imagine really quick that there is a girl in the audience who wants to start a startup. What advice do you give her? Really quick. You have talked about passion and never give up, be constant and work hard, and you have said also support each other. But which is the most important advice that you can give to our audience? You have given a lot of positive message, but one practical advice, Joanna.
Never give up. Sorry, that's like the thing.
Never give up.
That's the motto.
Passion and never give up. Never give up. Joanna?
It's harder than you expect. Be prepared to work a lot. And as Valerie is saying, don't give up. Never give up your dreams and work hard. But you'll feel better at the end if you didn't get it because of a number of reasons, not because you didn't fight for it. So be prepared to work hard. And it's sometimes I get upset saying, look, there's so many people trying to convince people to become an entrepreneur, but being an entrepreneur is really hard. And having one of the things that in the beginning I used to say that I was very proud because I was creating jobs in an area that was still emerging. So I was very, very proud of doing that. But having the responsibility of an additional salary on your side is also something very hard for you. So it is hard. It is a long way, but it's totally worth it. So follow your dreams.
Andrea?
I would recommend for someone that is just starting, you said a young girl, so I'm picturing that in my mind, I would recommend to really do a lot of networking. I think it really helps to talk to people that has been there and to get surrounded by people with experience. So this not only happens to young girls, but there are things that we do know and there are other things that we don't know. Look for the right people to get advice. From my experience, I'd say talk to investors. They can be really helpful also in advising you on how to build a company, how to focus your project. So yeah, do a lot of networking and talk to as much people as you can and get surrounded by the good ones.
Definitely, yeah.
And Raquel?
Well, it's more or less the same as my colleagues said, right? I think biotech and life science in general in Catalonia, the sector is in a sweet moment, I would say. So there are a lot of examples, a lot of companies, so a lot of projects to be involved in. So as Andrea was saying, just talk to people, just find the way, the need that you want to develop, and obviously not alone. So build a network of people, but keep pushing and don't be afraid to fail. Take the risk and keep pushing.
Okay, so thank you so much. It seems that some women feel socially obligated to choose between their professional career and taking care of their families. Sometimes it is also difficult for women to see themselves as entrepreneurs or business women. Raising awareness of other women in this role, as you said, like you have done today, is a way of breaking this mental image. Many thanks to all of you for your participation in this debate organized by La Caixa Foundation and to the collaborators who have made it possible. Also, thank you, the attendees, for being so active and for their attention. Thank you so much and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.